Why, yes. It sounds like something two humans would do.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line. I have been magical with the record button the last couple weeks.
You really have.
Joining me on the line, he is from CinemaBlend.com. He talks about movies and ladies and gentlemen, it is Mike Reyes. What's going on, dude?
Oh, not much. Just sitting here as a normal human in Arizona. I'm doing well. How are you, man?
I'm hanging in there. The time we're recording, we're getting ready for a big winter storm, so I'm waiting for the roads to be on the way home. But, it is what it is. All right. We've got a couple different sort of topics coming up today on the show. Let's start with, are there any new movies out this week? Because when last we talked, it didn't sound like there was much new out there, or at least nothing that was blockbuster level talk,
There's two movies that are on the books for this weekend. I've seen neither. Missing, which is a pseudo sequel to the film, I believe it's called Searching.
Okay.
It was what happened was it was kind of a hit a couple of years ago with John Cho about his teen daughter goes missing, and he tries to find her through internet sleuthery and looking through her phone and everything.
Okay.
And what was interesting about it is through the movie you're basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's basically just through social media displays and phone displays and computer displays. Like everything's playing out through this medium. So now you've got Missing, which is a young girl searching for her parents, who apparently have gone missing after going on I think they went on a trip to Mexico.
Okay.
They went on a trip together, and now they're supposedly missing. So it's basically another round like that.
All right. This seems like one of those things that if you're into it, you're really going to like it. If you're not going to get anything out of it. Is that fair to say?
I guess. What is interesting, though, is this happens to be it'll be premiering on Friday, and as we're recording today, the 18th, it is the 15th anniversary of Cloverfield, which was a big found footage monster movie that sort of, this is sort of the new found footage where I think they call it screen view, or I forget what it was called, but this is like another sort of subgenre where it's similar to found footage, but not quite.
Okay.
So I just find it interesting that someone else is taking another gamble on that sort of thing, very close to the success of Cloverfield's anniversary.
You know what's funny? I can remember when we talked about it on the morning show, my buddy Moose and I, when the first trailer for Cloverfield came out, and we were trying to figure out what in the hell was going on. We were like, okay, what's Bad Robot? Is this a robot? Because you didn't know that was the production company for it, So
if you were a viewer of Alias and Lost, you did.
I wasn't, but anyways, we're going through trying to find answers for it. I just remember it being a really big deal, and then I remember going to the movie. And they had the first trailer for Star Trek in there with that building of the Enterprise.
Yes, I loved that trailer because, okay, as if it wasn't cool enough that Cloverfield drops that trailer with Transformers, surprises the hell out of everyone. We don't even know the movie's name until that November.
Yeah.
Then you go to see Cloverfield, and what do you get? That beautiful, awesome teaser where the music slowly creeps up and you see the Enterprise, and then it's like launching and it shows you the date.
I remember.
And
I remember. Well, what I want to add to that is I remember when they show it and they're building. I'm like, it's the Enterprise. It's the Enterprise. It's the Enterprise. It's the Enterprise. Yes. Was
and
that.
then just the title comes up and it goes, ba-da! And it's like, oh, it's time.
Yeah, I remember that. I just got chills. But hey, speaking of construction scenes, you know how they were showing guys welding and building the ship,
Yeah.
There's a great scene. There's a great scene in the in season 4 of Enterprise where Scott Bakula and the lady that played, and I can't think of what her name is, Captain Hernandez. She was the captain of the USS Columbia, the second NX class ship. There's a dude in the background, and he's got one of those rod welders or whatever, And listen, I don't know a ton about welding, but it's kind of the same thing as you don't have to be a good actor to spot a bad one type thinking. There's a dude, and he's got this welder, and he's just shooting sparks everywhere and just all over the place. It's he's an actor that has zero idea what he's doing in the background. They're just make a ton of sparks and call it good.
That just reminds me of the fact that if you watch carefully in one scene of Quantum of Solace, you've got a guy that's supposed to be sweeping up the ground. You look at him closely, his broom is not even touching the ground. He's just pushing it like in the air.
Okay, here's another one for you. Great Outdoors. In the background when they go running into the house after they go to the old 96er, you know?
Yeah.
If you watch...
I still had to see that movie.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh my God. Wow, I thought we were going to have a fun game there, and then you derailed it with that. I didn't know you'd never seen that.
You could still tell me. I know the raccoon gag, but that's it.
Okay, so they go in, and John Candy had just ate the 96-ounce steak and all the fat and all that, and he is on the edge of throwing up, right? So they go into their cabin, and the raccoons had gotten in and tore up all the trash, which makes him get nauseous, and he runs to the bathroom, and they all run after him to make sure he's okay, right? Well, then the scene is a couple seconds go by, and then you see everybody run out after he pukes. You know, like, ah, God, right? Well, if you're paying attention, the group goes back and they don't quite get covered up, and you see Dan Aykroyd. He's the leader of it, and all the people are hovered around him smiling, and he goes, and he holds up fingers when he does it. He goes, 1, 2, 3, and then they all turn around and run out. And that was the cue. Yeah. It's just funny that you see him actually count it down and do the cue for the gag. It helps if you've seen it, I guess.
I love that raccoon bit.
The other great one, like stuff in the background of movies, and this is taking a completely weird turn. You remember X-Men 2?
Yeah.
On certain versions of it, when they go in and, you know, when they teleport into Cerebro at the very end.
Yeah.
Is it Nightcrawler? I can't remember his name.
Nightcrawler, yeah.
Yeah, Nightcrawler and Stormer standing there. If you look underneath the platform when they pull back, there's some guy that's part of the crew. He's in a cap, and he's just staring up at him.
That guy's like, I can't believe I'm on a set right now with Halle Berry and Alan Cumming, and I'm just going to stand here. I'm not here. Don't look at me.
I've got a picture of it on my other computer. I'll send it to you, but it's something to look for. So
that's something else that's celebrating an anniversary this year. X2, X-Men United. Probably my favorite X-Men movie outside of First Class.
That was pretty good. The Backstreet Boys gag in that was really funny.
Dude, the opening
or was it insane?
With Nightcrawler, invading the White House to, I think it was Dies Irae, like this beautiful apocalyptic classical music. Like anybody who saw X-Men and was like just slightly interested in this series, that was it. That was the moment where it's like, you're either with this or you're not. And it's like, I am with this. Even though Bryan Singer is a monster.
You know what was beautiful about that scene?
What?
The break-in of the White House. And not that he was breaking into the White House, but the way they did it with his powers and stuff, like it was believable in that world. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. It wasn't fantastical. You could buy that. You could buy that a mutant could do that. And the way that he moved wasn't too comic booky. Like he was teleporting in short bursts as evasion versus, I'm just going to go from New York to Japan.
Yeah, it was just really well done. And I don't know. But anyways, Mike Reyes from CinemaBlend.com joining me on the line. We got completely sidetracked talking about Missing. What was the other movie that's coming out this weekend?
So the other movie that's coming out this weekend, I don't know how wide it's going because it's one of those A24 deals, but Jesse Eisenberg has a film, his feature film directorial debut, which is also based on an audio drama he wrote called When You Finish Saving the World. Basically, the log line that I've seen, I think this is from when it premiered at Sundance last year. High school student Ziggy performs original folk rock songs for an adoring online fan base. The concept mystifies his formal and uptight mother, Evelyn, who runs a shelter for survivors of domestic abuse. So, again, I don't know how wide this is going just because it is A24 and they'll sometimes play it fast and loose with how they release things to theaters.
Hey, really, real quick, what do you mean by A24? What is that?
A24 is one of the leading indie production companies. You know some of their other movies. Yeah.
Okay.
Midsummer. Yeah.
Okay, that I didn't know if it was a term I should know or anything like that. According to Wikipedia, the film will be released in the United States January 20th. So I don't know if that means wide, but
that doesn't say how many screens it'll be going to. I think most people consider a wide release to be. I think the minimum threshold might be somewhere around 600 screens. Don't take that as gospel because that's something I know a lot. When you really want to talk about a big movie, it's usually like 2,000 to 3,000 screens.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Did you see it?
No,
that's right. But it was at Sundance back Premiered at Sundance on January 20. Oh, last year. Sorry, I saw this the close date, and my mind kind of did a jumping jack or a somersault because I was like, wait a minute, that's in the future, but it already premiered. And then I was like, But I was like, 2022, we're in a new year.
Yeah, because sometimes what'll happen is movies like that'll premiere on the festival circuit, and then it'll take them a little while to actually land a studio to distribute them.
I get you.
Like there's stuff I saw at Toronto last year that still doesn't have a distributor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like it may be a while before that movie gets released. It may not get released because there isn't a buyer interested.
All right. Well, once you see either one of those, we'll have to talk about them again, okay?
Certainly.
Perfect. Mike Reyes from CinemaBlend.com joins me every Friday on the show to talk about movies. We also talk about news and junk, and I asked Mike earlier this week, I'm like, you want to talk about Velma? And he was like, yeah. So we're going to talk about Velma now. As Yeah.
Peter, you're hurting me. Yeah. You're moving too much. Yeah. I'll go down. Yeah.
My wife, Steph, does this really funny, like when you have a kid that can't talk or cats or whatever, you usually talk for him or answer for him, you know? And we've made Cooper, our youngest, into kind of a moron when he talks.
Oh,
and
poor buddy.
We'll say something, and then like one will respond, and then you look back and he smiles, and she goes, yeah.
Oh, that's so cute, but at the same time, you for making your kid a dummy.
There's more parents out there that know exactly what I'm talking about than don't. So anyways, and we love our son Cooper almost as much as Jace, so it's okay.
Wow, he's going to listen to this like 20 years from now, and his therapist is going to be like, this explains everything.
No, he's going to be staring at me as I lay in the hospital bed and just slowly pulls the cord out. Anyways,
that I love, but I'm not going to derail us here.
There you go. Velma, the new TV series, finally premiered over on HBO Max, and it has had a rough go of it. 2 episodes out, and
oh boy,
the reception has been less than stellar. We'll say it that way.
But people have spoken. It is apparently worse than Dragon Ball Evolution.
Which, by the way, I saw Dragon Ball Evolution in the theater, and I was so disappointed in that movie because we were such big Dragon Ball Z fans at the time. It was like, oh, God, I can't believe this. But on International Movie Database, imdb.org, and this is as of January 18th, a 1.3 rating out of 10. Google users have a 9% like of this show. And it is.
I wonder how many Dragon Ball has, because that's the thing. This is a weighted average of all this is the thing you need to check on, people, because no matter what aggregator you are using, Rotten Tomatoes or anything else, it's all averages. And you got to look at how many reviews there are, because some movies will have like a pretty high percentage when, you know, the reviews are just coming out. And that's usually for people that have seen the really early screenings and they just lifted the embargo. But then you go back to check and you see the more critics have been added on, that score will tend to change.
All right. So what happened with Velma? Let's go there.
So, oh man, where does one begin?
And to preface this, I have not seen anything other than trailers. And we were talking earlier today, and I was like, you know what? I didn't have any interest in watching Velma. I was never a big Scooby-Doo guy or anything like that. So the changes they made to the show, you know, sexuality or color of the characters or ethnicity or, you know, whatever it happened to be, I wasn't going to watch this either way because it wasn't in my wheelhouse. But the moment that it's like the worst rated thing on IMDb, I'm like, oh, sign me up. I want to see what this is like.
Exactly, because that's the infamy vote. It's like, wow, it's that bad. I need to experience this and I need to judge this for myself. When you and I were talking off air, you brought up the brilliant example of the last time we saw that. Cats. Cats was another one that was just so bad that people had to go and see it for themselves.
Yeah.
And then that eventually led to now there's like an underground appreciation circuit for this movie, but they appreciate the fact that you can riff it to hell and just they have this thing called rowdy screenings where you basically just like
Dressed as a cat.
trash the film while you're watching it.
That would either be an amazing time or about 15 minutes in, you're like, you know what, I'm done here. I don't need this anymore.
Yeah, see, with riffing, it has to be structured. Like, just go and watch any Mystery Science Theater or Riff Tracks commentary, and like they watch the movies beforehand. They script these things out. They time them. So it's not just throwing whatever, you're not just throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, there is a science to this.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Velma. It's basically Scooby-Doo with no Scooby-Doo, and they changed some stuff, right?
Yeah, so it looks like it's a prequel to when Mysteries Inc. is formed, because from the sound of it, Velma is the one that actually formed the group, and it's because of a murder that is taking place in Crystal Cove, the town that Scooby-Doo takes place in. And as you had mentioned before, there's a lot of changes to the group because Velma's played by Mindy Kaling.
Yeah.
Daphne is played by Constance Wu from The Terminal List and Fresh Off the Boat. Sam Richardson from Veep is playing Shaggy. But he's not even Shaggy yet. He's still Norval. And then Fred is being played by Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny and AP Bio. And like, there's a lot of changes. Like, Daphne and Velma have beef against each other in the first episode. Norval is a snack reviewer who is straight edge. And Fred is just infantilized. He cannot do things for himself. He is a spoiled little rich boy.
Oh, okay.
And that's probably the funniest. That is probably the part that I've laughed at the most with this show. And you know, I've seen the first 2 episodes. It's okay. It's not a trash fire, but it's not something that's so compelling that like I need to see what happens next. Like I'm curious. I'm going to keep watching. But it's, you know, if I have to choose between this or The Last of Us, I'm going for The Last of Us.
Okay, and we're going to get to The Last of Us here in a second. Looks like when we're going to have a new episode coming out this weekend, probably for Velma, or? Yeah,
new episodes. I think they're on a weekly basis. I don't know which night they drop.
Okay.
And also, there is no Scooby-Doo in Velma. So that's the one thing that I can sort of get behind with people. It's like, I miss Scooby.
All right, Mike Reyes from CinemaBlend.com. That's a little bit on Velma. Also over on HBO Max, we got our first look this past weekend at The Last of Us. This looks amazing. I haven't watched it quite yet, but it looks amazing.
It is amazing. And it is basically confirms that there is now a subgenre of content where it's Pedro Pascal protecting a young child / being and
I didn't even think about that.
Shepherding them through the waste. And yeah, I'm for it. I'm all for it. And the one side thought I had while watching this was I actually watched this first episode twice. And the second go around, I was like, I really want someone to write Pedro Pascal another role where he's like cleaned up and like making quips and almost like his character in Kingsman Golden Circle. Like, he's contemporary, he's joking around, he's well-dressed. Because I know he's really good at rough and tumble Western sort of protagonists, but
yeah.
I really want to see him let loose. And that's probably why I need to see Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, because I'm sure he got to do that in that movie.
That's legitimately my favorite Pedro movie.
But and for those who are familiar, this is an adaptation of the PlayStation production / Naughty Dog Productions video game of the same name, where decades after a pandemic has ravaged the world and turned people into mushroom zombies.
Sounds so stupid, right?
No, actually, because the more that they've been talking about it, they're like, yeah, this is based off of an actual organism. This is something that kind of is plausible if the conditions are right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where there's a whole introduction in this episode. The first episode opens with a fake talk show clip with epidemiologists in 1968. And one of them gives this monologue about basically what the virus in Last of Us is based off of. And it's an actual organism. One of the species is it's called cordyceps. It's a fungus that basically infects its host, takes it over, and then kind of puppeteers it and spreads by bringing that host to like others and infecting them. And first of all, it's a brilliant way to sort of lay the world down. And the thing that's even more exciting is John Hannah, who played Jonathan, the cowardly brother from the Mummy movies, Rachel Weisz's brother. He's the epidemiologist that's giving this speech.
Oh, cool.
And it's just this amazing prologue that I heard I think it was the original, they have a podcast that runs alongside with the episodes. So if you go on HBO Max, you can literally pull up the episode of the podcast that corresponds with that episode in the extras. And they said it was between that, Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, who were the creators of the show. Neil Druckmann being the creator of the game series too. And then Craig Mazin, who was the showrunner for Chernobyl, which is also amazing.
Oh, Chernobyl.
They said that it came down to, I know, it came down to two concepts for how they were going to do that opening. And it was either that or like a Planet Earth style video that explained the cordyceps. I'm glad they went with this because it's a wonderful piece of narrative that just sets everything up. And the moment they announced that Craig Mazin was going to be doing Last of Us, I was signed on because, again, Chernobyl. The man took real life disaster, presented it not only like a horror movie, but also a really heartbreaking drama.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't overdo any of it. He doesn't sensationalize it, but at the same time, just by presenting it as it is and as the reality is and wording it the right way, it was like watching a horror movie.
There you go.
Those same skills are at work in The Last of Us. And you do not really get to see the creatures all that much in this first episode, or at least you get to see some, but not in their full form and not as much as you would expect.
Okay.
They're taking their time with this, and I'm there for it.
Good deal. Mike Reyes from CinemaBlend.com joining me on the line. The Last of Us. New episode out this Sunday, if I remember right.
Yep.
Okay.
Sundays
cool.
at 9. That is the prime HBO slot. It's on HBO and also on HBO Max.
There you go. What else we got to talk about? What are we wrapping up with this week?
I don't know. We could go back to Cloverfield a little bit unless something's popped up on the newswire.
The newswire.
Because something's popped up on the old newswire. Flash, this coming in. Adolf Hitler still dead. Everyone is happy.
I saw a meme earlier today of this cat. It was like Hitler cat, where the spots on it, it had like a Hitler mustache and like a black spot on its head.
Yeah.
So it's like my cat keeps trying to take over Poland.
That, if I'm not mistaken, that was one of the first big memes, was cats that look like Hitler.com.
Oh God, that's really?
And I'm not even kidding, folks. This was like early. There's even a mention in like Social Network of that where it's like, is that a cat that looks like Hitler? Those are really funny.
Oh God.
But that was a thing. That was like a site. It's like, you're the man now, dog.
There's part of me that wants to search it, but I'm at work, and I don't know if that would be a good one.
That's exactly. I'm sitting here thinking that same thing. It's like, well, we're mentioning this. Should we be mentioning this? And it's like, that's perfectly fine.
Nah, we're 30 minutes in at this point. Who gives a
And we're making fun of Hitler. We're not condoning him. It's just like Mel Brooks. Like, he's made himself. He makes it his job every now and then to just make fun of Hitler. You know what? I like that.
With Mel Brooks,
that's something we could talk about.
I was just going to say that kind of segued into the Mel Brooks' kid writing probably the best zombie book in a while. Boy, God, I wish World War Z would have been good.
Yeah, and I kind of wish that we would have gotten the sequel that apparently David Fincher was going to direct it.
Oh, really?
So it's like David Fincher and Brad Pitt teaming up again. That could have been something good, depending on who you got to write it. But yeah, I still wish we got World War Z's original third act.
It was either way though. That book was really. If they would, that might be one of those books that is a better series than it is a movie.
Oh yeah, no, you would definitely be. It would definitely behoove them to make it into like a fake Ken Burns documentary.
Boy, that could be interesting. Okay, for people that may not know, and listen, World War Z has been out for a lot of years, so I don't think it's a big deal to. I don't think I need to put spoilers on this, but the way the book is set up, it's like short stories about what happened after the zombie apocalypse, during the zombie apocalypse, and it's kind of broken down into like interviews. This guy's going around and interviewing all these people, which the interviewer was kind of what they based Brad Pitt off of, correct?
Kind of. Even though he doesn't really do any interviewing in the movie, but yeah, I think that's just.
Yeah, it's been about God. It's probably been about a decade since I read that book.
This summer.
Oh, really?
Oh no, the movie's been out for a decade this summer.
Okay,
if I'm not mistaken.
So, anyways, they go through and it's all these little short stories about different parts of the zombie apocalypse and how they kind of got things back together. And it would make a really good. Now that the more I think about it, that's a series I want to. That's a zombie series I could probably watch.
And I highly recommend anybody that either has only read the print book or hasn't read the book at all, listen to the full edition of the audiobook, because you have a voice cast like, I think Denise Crosby from Next Generation's in there, Carl Reiner, Martin Scorsese, Alan Alda, Henry Rollins, Mark Hamill, like Nathan Fillion, like this amazing cast of narrators all playing the different characters that are giving those stories.
Yeah,
and it just adds a texture to it.
I didn't know that there was such a big cast, because all I've ever done is read the book. I haven't. Now that you say that, that's one I might have to buy and listen to.
Definitely, it really is amazing having all those actors telling these different stories, and just it's so different from what you would expect from a zombie apocalypse story, where it's not just we're hiding out from them, we're surviving. This. It's like the zombie apocalypse is just the stage that this story plays out on, and you learn about all these different things like military operations and.
I love that.
Stuff gone, the Battle of Yonkers I think the Battle of Yonkers is the section with Mark Hamill narrating, is amazing.
Well, I thought it was interesting. That was always the weird thing about the book to the movie, where the zombies in the book are slow. And they actually make a big deal out of that they're slow. It's just they have big numbers.
Well, yeah. And then there's all these interesting details, like during the winter, the zombies freeze up.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we bought ourselves a little time here. But then everything from snow removal to the spring thaw presents the threat of them coming back. Yeah. And it's just such a nuanced picture that it's not just, zombies and we got to survive and Coral.
What other part of that book really sticks out to me is when they, all the people move to the mountains and to the colder temperatures, and they're all camping and they think it's a lot of fun until the food runs out.
Yeah.
That's that whole scene is pretty rough. So
I need to read it or listen to it again. But yeah, it's just, that is one of those books that I will keep on my shelf to revisit because it's that good.
Absolutely.
Like Max Brooks just, he started with the Zombie Survivor's Handbook, and it's like, oh, this is funny and this is a fun concept. But then he breaks out World War Z, and it's like, that was probably just a warm up to this massive story that he laid out.
Absolutely. Mike Reyes from CinemaBlend.com joins me every week on the show to talk about movies and news and weird stuff, and it's awesomeness. Anyways, find all of his stuff over at CinemaBlend.com. We'll have links at the bottom of the page. Mike, you have yourself a wonderful weekend.
You too, man. And as we leave, if anybody hasn't seen the History of the World Part 2 trailer, go watch it.